What's good, guys? So when you're building an app, you need a solid backend. You need a place to store your data that you're going to be either displaying to the user directly or manipulating in some ways so that you display an end result to your users, right? And this backend needs to be easy to use, but most importantly, it needs to be fast. Users expect fast responses to their requests, right? So your backend needs to respond with data very, very quickly. Now, not all backends are created equal. Some backends are perfect for specific application use cases. Other backends are perfect for other application use cases, right? So it really depends on the kind of application that you're building. Now, in today's video, I'm going to be introducing you to a free backend that is extremely fast at getting results to your users. And so you can use this backend for all kinds of interesting application use cases, especially things like search, where your app needs to come back with results very, very quickly. And did I mention that not only it's super fast, but it's also 100% free. And so stay tuned until the end of the video, where I'm going to be showing you some interesting use cases and also a little bonus towards the end that I'm sure many of you are going to like. Now, the backend that we're going to be talking about today is called Typesense, and Typesense is a lightning fast open source search. And one way to think of Typesense is this is an open source alternative to Algolia, and Algolia is another great backend that you can use for searching applications that I reviewed a while back. Okay, and so Typesense is as good as Algolia. It's very, very fast. It's very quick. It's fairly easy to use. And it's also open source. Okay. And so a really nice way to kind of see the capabilities is right on the homepage. Okay. So over here, you can actually test it out. And so you can type something like pizza over here and you see these immediate results. Now take a look at this. Found 23,000 recipes out of 2.2 million in just 17 milliseconds. Okay. So this is lightning fast, right? So you can type something like burger. Look at this, 7 milliseconds. Very, very fast, extremely fast, right? Absolutely perfect for all kinds of apps where a user needs to find something, where users are going to be searching for something. And so here you can see that this is the open source alternative to Algolia, the easier to use alternative to Elasticsearch. And you can see that it's a very, very popular open source project with 22,000 GitHub stars. There's probably even more now. And so you can kind of see all the startups that are using it. Here's a really nice section, right? You can see meticulously engineered for performance and ease of use, right? Search as you type, autocomplete, faceted navigation, geo search, fuzzy search, vector search, semantic search, recommendations, built-in RAG, lots and lots of use cases. And we are going to be exploring some of these use cases in today's video tutorial. Okay, so you can kind of scroll down there. They have a comparison, Algolia versus Elasticsearch versus Melee search versus Typesense, and you can kind of see the features and which product supports which features and things like that. And so this is a really, really good product, and surprisingly I haven't really gotten around to reviewing it until now, and a couple of our amazing viewers suggested that I review it, and here I am. And so the first thing that I want to do is I want to go ahead and I want to set up this client. Now when it comes to setting it up, you have two options, right? You can use self-hosting, or you can use Typesense Cloud. So if you click on Typesense Cloud, you can kind of get started very, very quickly, right? So you can log in and you can get started for fairly cheap. But I am someone that likes to self-host it, right? I want to show you how you can self-host it so that you can get it for absolutely free, excluding some maybe minor hosting costs, okay? So if you click on quick start over here, you have this really nice guide and you have these key use cases. And what you want to do is you want to click on install Typesense. Okay. So on this page, it's going to tell you that, you have your Typesense Cloud. And here you can see that there's a couple of options when it comes to self-hosting. But by far the easiest one is this Docker option, because all you really need to do is select all of this over here, modify the key if you want. I'm actually using this key just for testing. Copy this over here, and then you want to execute it in some kind of a Linux or a Unix environment. Okay, so this could be your own server somewhere. This could be a virtual host, a droplet, things like that. And so for this project, I'm going to be using DigitalOcean, which is a provider that I've used for many, many years to host all kinds of projects, all kinds of things. And here I'm going to be setting up a droplet. Okay, so I've configured my droplet to have 2 gigs of memory and a 25 gig disk. And it's also going to be running Ubuntu, which is a Linux distribution that a lot of people like to use. Okay, so once you've set up your droplet or you've configured your virtual host using another provider, you want to go ahead and log into it. And so once you're logged into your virtual host, you simply want to execute this whole command that you've pasted previously. Okay, that's all you need to do, because this spawns a Docker container. Okay, so you don't need to, compile anything. You don't need to do anything crazy. You simply run this, and that's going to go ahead and spin up your own instance of Typesense. So now that you have it running, what you want to do is you want to access the host and the port that you've initially configured it at. So here we've configured it on port 8108. And so this is the host and the port. And when you access it from your browser, you might get a message that looks something like this. And that is absolutely fine, because this product is not meant to be accessed by a browser. It's meant to be accessed via API calls. And so now once you have Typesense running like we have here, you can head back to this documentation and you want to go to a section called Building a Search Application. And here you're going to find simple instructions for creating your own search application. Now, by default, Typesense does not come with a dashboard, okay? You need to access it via REST API calls. And that is absolutely doable, but it's not as user-friendly as we're probably used to. And so if you've been using something like Supabase as your backend, you're probably used to the amazing user interface that allows you to kind of control every aspect, every nook and cranny, essentially, of your Supabase backend. Now, fortunately, there's an open source project that gives us a Typesense dashboard for our Typesense backend, and you can find it by Googling for Typesense Dashboard. And this is the GitHub page over here. And this is essentially an app that you can use that will connect to your Typesense backend and display everything in a format that we are used to, okay? So this is also very, very easy to set up. And so what you want to do is you want to copy this URL. You want to do git clone this URL, and that's going to go ahead and download the whole repository and unpack it in your Linux or Unix environment. And once you have it cloned, what you want to do is you want to type npm install followed by npm run dev. And when you do that, you're going to start this dashboard here, okay? So as you can see, it's starting up over here, and it even tells you the URL where you can access it. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this URL, and I'm going to go ahead and access it, okay? And at this point, you're going to be seeing this Typesense dashboard login page, and here you need to enter your API key. We used XYZ. You also want to enter the host name, which is going to be the same IP address that was given to you previously. And the port is going to be 8108, okay? And at this point, you can simply do login, and that's going to go ahead and log in, and you're going to be seeing the dashboard, okay? So now you're going to have this screen in front of you. And here you can create collections, you can create aliases, API keys, all kinds of fun stuff, okay? So if we go into collections, I already have this books collection. And so if we click on this books collection, you can see that I have tons and tons of books here that were created using a sample data set that was provided by Typesense. So if we go back to Typesense documentation here, you can see that the very, very first step here is to download and set up this sample data set. And so what you want to do is you want to copy this, paste this here. That's going to go ahead and download this data set. I already had it downloaded, so I'm going to go ahead and overwrite it. And so now if we go back here, you're going to see that I have this books data set here. This is this books data set. It's in the JSON format, which is something that Typesense expects. And if you scroll down here, you can see that they tell you how to create a books collection. You can do that over here. And then you can add this whole data set to your newly created books collection. And you can also do the same from the Typesense dashboard, right? So if you go to your collections tab here, you can click on add collection, and you can select JSON mode, or you can do a for mode if you want. That's going to allow you to enter it manually. Or you can do a JSON mode, go back here, come back over here, and you can simply copy this format here, right? So if you copy that, paste that in here, that's going to allow you to create this books collection automatically. So once you have it created, you can follow the next step and import this sample collection. And collections work very, very similarly to tables, or even when it comes to Firebase's Firestore, right? We have collections there, we have collections here, and inside of collections, we have documents, which is exactly what you see here. So here we have tons and tons of documents, right? 9,979 documents here, right? And each document has fields, right? And so if you come over here, you see title, authors, publication year, ratings count, average rating, etc., etc. We also have the images here, okay? And this is great because now we have sample data that we can kind of play around with. We can kind of see, how it works, and try some of the different ways that we can, get to this data, how we can search, add new items, delete items, update items, stuff like that. So if you go back to Typesense documentation, it actually tells you exactly how to do all that, right? You can add books to a collection, you can search books, right, by simply executing this request here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go into my Rapid API, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go File, Import Text. I'm going to paste this here. I'm going to do an import, and then I'm going to fill in my key here. So my key is XYZ. My host, I'm going to go back here and get my host. My host is this IP address followed by the port. And so I'm going to go ahead and change this, remove that. And the port is 8108. And now I'm going to go to URL parameters. And here, as you can see, we have Q, which is the query. I want to query by the title. And I want to sort by a ratings count in descending order. So like from largest to smallest. And if I execute that, I should be getting responses. And as you can see, I'm getting a bunch of responses. So I'm going to go into JSON text. And here you can see that I'm getting a bunch of responses. So it found 17 items, and I'm getting all the data, right? So for each document, I'm seeing that sometimes we have multiple authors. And that's fine because the authors is an array of strings. It's not just a string, it's an array of strings. And so if I go back to my dashboard here and I click on schema, I can see my schema for the books collection, right? So if I scroll down, I can see that authors, and it's a string followed by open square bracket, close square bracket. And when you see that, that's that means it's an array, essentially a list. It's a convention used in programming, very, very common. That means it's a list or an array of the previous data types. In this case, it's going to be a string. And here we have just a regular string, and you can also click on JSON mode and you can easily see the fields, right? All the fields, you can see that this is title, and you can see all the stuff for it. You can see the authors and all the different parameters for it, or attributes is a better way to call it, all the different attributes for it. You can look at for mode as well, and you can see that it's facet, it's an index, you can do that. Facet means that you can group by it, right? So when you set up facets, you can group stuff. You can group by authors. Here you can't really group by titles, but the index is set, right? So that means that it allows for fast searching because it's indexing this field over here. And so when we go back to our documentation, you can search for books, and you can do something called a semantic search, right? Typesense also supports the ability to return semantic matches in addition to keyword matches, right? For instance, if your dataset contains the word Harry Potter and the user searches for famous boy wizard, semantic search will return the record with Harry Potter, since it is a conceptually related search term. And so you can read more about semantic search in the dedicated guide here. And if that is something that you want to enable or configure in your application, you'll be able to do it, okay? You can also filter results, right? So now we can tweak our query to only fetch books that are published before the year 98, right? To do that, we just have to add a filter by clause to our query, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and copy that. I'm going to go ahead and file, import text. I'm going to go ahead and paste that. And I'm going to change all the things that I changed before. So XYZ is our API key, right? Our URL parameters are left as is. We just need to change the host. And we do that by simply getting the IP address and the port, right? So I'm going to go ahead and put that here, and the port is 8108. And now if we execute it, you can see that we should be getting, we only have one result, and that is because we're looking for publication year that is less than 1998. Now, pay attention to how fast it is, right? The search time is 13 milliseconds, right? Supabase is not going to be this fast, right? Supabase is great as a general purpose database, right? General purpose backend. But if you need something for search, if you need something fast, you're not going to get it with other, general purpose backends, right? Look at this, 13 milliseconds. Look at that, 2 milliseconds, right? Because now it's caching it, right? 2 milliseconds. That's nothing. That's absolutely nothing. A millisecond is 1,000th of a second, right? So you're getting 2,000ths of a second. How fast is that? That's incredibly fast, right? If I execute that again, it's still 2 milliseconds, right? Now, if I do something like cutoff is 99, let's go ahead and execute that. We're getting 3, and now it's still 2 milliseconds, right? Incredibly fast, right? It was just like in a blink of an eye, right? Even faster than that. And so if we keep scrolling on the documentation, you can see that we can do faceting. Let's facet the search results by the authors field to see how that works. Let's also use this example. And so let's go ahead and copy that. Let's see how that works. File, import text, paste that there, enter my API key here, XYZ, and enter the host, paste that in there, and put in the port 8108. And now if we execute that, let's take a look. And what is this? URL params. We're faceting by authors, right? So now we're getting facet counts, count one, count one, count one. We're getting groups, right? We're getting groupings, right? And so here we have the results. We have 3 results, and these are the results. James, highlights, and this can be useful if you want to display how many results are per author, right? So if you go back, they probably are, going to be telling you about this use case, right? So as we can see the result below, Typesense handled the typographic error gracefully and fetched the results correctly. The facet by clause also gives us a neat breakdown of the number of books written by each author in the return search results, right? And so this can be displayed like in the top, as part of your summary. So like we have the results, but before I show you the results, let me show you how many are for each author. And this is awesome. This is really, really nice. And so this is the end of a simple walkthrough, right? If you want to have a detailed dive into Typesense, you can refer to the API documentation. So this is an amazing product, can do some amazing things. All right, so now that we had a quick overview of how this product works, how it functions, the speed, all that stuff, let me go ahead and show you an amazing use case, and that is where we're going to be connecting Typesense as a backend of choice to our FlutterFlow app. So I went ahead and built a custom FlutterFlow app that integrates really nicely with Typesense as our backend. And so let me go ahead and run this app in a simulator, okay, just to show you how everything works, okay? So this is the first tab here, and here's where you can simply type something and get normal results, right? So if I type Harry, press search, I get my results. I can scroll, I can do all that. I can also click on it, go to details, all of that. But you see how fast the searching is, right? It's instantaneous, right? You barely even see the spinning circle indicator, right? It's very fast. Okay. Now the second example here works a little bit differently because now we are using autocomplete that's built into FlutterFlow, right? So if I type Harry like this, I'm gonna be seeing a little pull down that gives me some of the results. Now this is built-in functionality. Okay, so if I remove that and I wait a few seconds, so if I type Harry Potter, okay, and I do that, I see the results. So if I type like something like stone, I see stone, and if I type like philosopher, I see that. So that is, it's a lot faster now, right? And so if I type big stone, it should hopefully find there was a big stone. And so if I type secrets, you can see it found secrets. If I type chamber, it found chamber. If I type, I don't know, city, it finds it really, really fast. So this is really nice. but it's not optimal, right? It's not configurable. It doesn't really show us all the information. It doesn't show the images, none of that. And so in order to solve this issue, I went a little further and I created a custom widget that perfectly works with your Typesense instance that gives you much richer results. So if you come back over here, we have this search here, right? So if I type Harry, now take a look. And this is also scrollable. And also notice that it's highlighting the search results, as was the case on Typesense's main demo on the homepage, which I thought was really cool. And so take a look at this. And so now if I type goblet, look at that. It's all dynamic. It gets this. If I type fire, it does that. If I remove that, it's showing no results found, but ideally it should not show anything because we haven't typed anything. But if I type something like this, then it should be no results found, okay? So if I have fire, really nice. How about Stephen King? There we have Stephen King is here in the title. If I type road, really, really nice, and very fast, very quick. And because it's so quick, it's absolutely ideal for this specific use case, because for this over here, I mean, it doesn't need to be super quick, right? But when you're doing an overlay, like we have here, a little overlay on top, you want it to be quick, right? Because you're not doing something crazy, right? You're doing something, you're just brainstorming, right? Maybe king, and you want it to be quick, right? If it's on the page, right, as an element on the page itself, yeah, you kind of understand that it could be more of a heavier operation, as you will. So it's absolutely okay for it to take maybe a second or 2 or 5 seconds, right? We're kind of used to it, right? But if it's an overlay, it needs to be super quick. And look at this, it's instant. It's absolutely instant. Look at this. And obviously you can have an event if somebody clicks on it, redirect to this URL, show the detail page. It's really, really up to you. And so let's go ahead and jump back into FlutterFlow and let me show you how to build something like this. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to configure your API. We're only using one API, and that's all we need to do. Configure the URL. This is my instance here. And by the way, you guys can test it out. It's a live instance. It's up there. You can test it out if it works. As always, I'm going to be making this app and all the resources available to my amazing Patreon members. So if you guys want to kind of go deeper and use this in your apps, as well as the custom widget that comes as part of this app, then you definitely want to join our amazing Patreon community, because you're going to gain more content, more resources, so that you can learn quicker and build apps faster, okay? And so here we have a URL. Now I am specifying this Q as a parameter here, okay? Because I have a variable here, Q, which is the query. And so, we can specify that here, and that's going to be sent here, okay? We also have our headers. You want to send your API key that you've configured when you initially ran your instance of Typesense. Okay, so this is the API key here. If you guys want to test out my play around with my instance. And now if we go into response and test, and I put Harry Potter as the query, and I do test API, I'm getting results. I'm getting 17 results, and this is what I'm getting. Now, the next thing that you want to do once you have it all configured and you can see that the results work is you want to copy all that, and you want to come here and come to your data types, click this, create data type from JSON, paste all of this here, and give it a name, something like response type or response, okay? And that's going to go ahead and parse all of this and create data types. And that is exactly what I did. And so now you can see that I have search results. These are all data types, and these are, some of these data types have their own data types, right? So they're kind of wrapped in data types, right? So here we have this data request parameters. You can click here, but essentially what you're going to see is you're going to see search results, hits, and then you're going to have document, right? So you're going to go into documents, and this is where you're going to find all the data that you want to display. And so now that you have it configured, utilizing it in your app is fairly straightforward, right? I have a search text here, and I have a search button here. And so when you open it, it simply issues an API call, passes the queue, the query here, right, that the user entered, and we're using app state. And it updates our app state. So if you go to our app state, I have docs here, which is initially empty. And as a result, we display nothing. And then, once we get the API results, I'm basically updating my app state, and that's going to display all of this here. And then I'm basically displaying, the title, the author, the average rating, or whatever I need to do. Here's an image, right? So if I scroll down, we have here an image URL here. So all the standard stuff that you need to do, right? Because, I'm basically looking at the docs, which is our app state, which was updated. And so once it's updated, it rebuilds this page. It rebuilds stuff that depend on it. And that's why you have this nice behavior, okay? Now, for the second example, I'm using a built-in FlutterFlow autocomplete functionality. So if you scroll down, you can see that each input text has autocomplete functionality, right? So if you go to autocomplete properties, you can give it an autocomplete here. And so if you load this with data, it's going to automatically display as autocomplete. And the way that I load it with data is that for this text field, I have an event here, right? So if I open this up, on change, I'm basically executing an API call. And as a result, you have this kind of behavior, right? So if I type and I wait a couple of seconds, I'm going to be seeing the results. It works decently. It's not perfect, right? It's not perfect. So if I type stone, yeah, it kind of works. If I type, I don't know why I chose to kill a mockingbird. Okay, so now it does it. So it's a little flaky. I mean, it kind of works. You can use it. It's built in. You don't need to, build a custom widget or anything like that. But if you really want a solid user experience, then you definitely want to be using a custom widget. Okay, so I went ahead and I built a custom widget called Typesense Autocomplete. And all you need to do is specify the API key, the collection name, and the host name, right? So this can work for any setup. And you're going to be getting really nice behavior. So take a look at this. So compare this to this, right? So if I type something like king here, look at this. This is much, much better. And it's scrollable, and it's, it's a much better user experience, right? So look at this. If I delete that, it automatically refreshes. See, and it also highlights it, right? That is not something that you can do when you're using the built-in FlutterFlow autocomplete functionality. But if you want to build a custom widget, then you can do anything that you want, right? So this is my custom widget here. You can kind of see how it works. It does a lot of cool things, highlighting, stuff like that. And so you can kind of pause the screen and see the code, or you can join our amazing Patreon community and get access to all of these resources. And believe me, every time I build a video, every time I code an app, there's tons of resources that are super, super helpful, okay? And so the way that we have it working is that, for this widget, I'm basically giving it my API key, my collection name, and the host name, and everything else is taken care by this custom widget. So it's super flexible. It's super adaptable. You can adapt it to any use case, and you can provide this really nice experience for your users over here. And so as you can see, Typesense is a solid backend, very fast, absolutely free. You can easily self-host it using the Docker container. You can also have a dashboard if you want to have that UI access to, adding records, seeing what's happening. And I highly, highly recommend it, because you can have the server status, you have your caching, you can see exactly what's happening. So I do recommend this free open source Typesense dashboard as well. And so if you're looking to build any kind of app that relies in fast responses to user queries, especially search apps, but aren't like most apps search apps at the end of the day, because users are querying, they're searching for something, right? They're looking for something. And so in that case, Typesense can be a great backend for the app that you're going to be building. So definitely check it out. Join our amazing Patreon community. Check out Mastering FlutterFlow, Mastering Supabase, and Mastering BuildShip to join our amazing private communities and to learn more about these amazing tools, amazing builders that you can use to build amazing and easy to use apps for your users using no-code technologies.